Hi, everyone. There is a moment between knowing and revelation, a sacred pause where truth exists but has not yet spoken itself into the visible world. You stand in that moment now, someone's perception of you, the story they've been telling themselves, the narrative they built from assumptions and misunderstandings and half-truths. It's crumbling, dissolving, reorganizing itself into something truer, something closer to who you actually are, beneath all the projections and defenses and masks. And this shift, this quiet revolution happening in someone's consciousness, it's preparing to break surface, to become words, to translate from internal knowing into external acknowledgement. The truth is gathering itself, building pressure, moving toward the moment of eruption that changes everything. Okay, I'm Anna, and tonight we walk the threshold between hidden and revealed. We sit in the electric space where someone's understanding is transforming, and that transformation is about to spill into reality in ways neither of you can control, where what was believed is giving way to what is, where perception is surrendering to truth. Let me show you what breathes in this pregnant moment of almost revelation, in the deep mystery of how humans come to see each other truly. There exists a pattern as old as consciousness itself. We meet someone and immediately begin constructing, building stories, making assumptions, filling gaps in our knowledge with projections from our past, creating a version of them that may or may not have anything to do with who they actually are. And we live inside that construction. We relate to the version we created rather than the person who exists. We respond to our story about them rather than their reality. We see through filters so thick we don't even know we're not seeing clearly until something happens, a crack appears, light gets through, and suddenly, shockingly, we glimpse the actual person behind the projection, and nothing is the same after that glimpse. Some souls are experiencing exactly this kind of awakening about you right now. Not slowly, not gradually, but with the sudden force of recognition that cannot be unrecognized. They're seeing you, actually seeing you, perhaps for the first time, perhaps after years of looking at you through distorted glass. And what they're seeing is rearranging everything they thought they knew. Let me speak into the nature of changed perception and what it means when someone's view of you transforms. This reflection invites you to consider who in your world has been carrying a version of you that doesn't match your truth. There are those who've seen you as less than you are, who diminished you to feel bigger themselves, who needed you to be small so their own limitations didn't feel so limiting, who convinced themselves you were ordinary so they didn't have to confront your extraordinary nature. In the architecture of ego and protection, people sometimes need to minimize others, not from malice always, but from self-preservation. Your bigness threatens their smallness. Your light makes them notice their shadow. Your becoming reminds them of their stagnation. It's possible someone who held this diminished view of you is currently experiencing a violent correction. They're seeing what they refused to see, recognizing what they denied, acknowledging capacities in you they pretended didn't exist because admitting them would have required them to change. Some people experience this kind of recognition as almost painful because it means admitting they were wrong, means accepting that the person they dismissed or underestimated or took for granted is actually someone remarkable, someone they should have treated differently, someone they should have valued more. You might be about to witness exactly this kind of painful recognition in someone's eyes. The moment they truly see you and realize what they almost missed, what they almost lost, what they failed to appreciate while they had unfettered access. And that recognition, it changes how they move, how they speak, how they position themselves in relation to you. It creates a different energy entirely. This reflection invites you to consider, has anyone who underestimated you been acting strangely lately? Let me part the veils and show you another possibility living in this moment. There are those who have seen you as other than you are, who projected onto you their fears or their fantasies, who made you the villain in their story or the saint in their mythology, who created a version of you that served their narrative, regardless of whether it matched your reality. In the Hall of Mirrors, where perception distorts truth, these projections can hold for surprising lengths of time. People can relate to their invented version of you for months or years, can build entire relationships with someone who doesn't actually exist, can love or hate or fear a phantom while the real you stands unseen, until the projection can't hold anymore, until reality insists, until something happens that forces them to see the actual you instead of the imagined you. And when that veil drops, when the projection dissolves, the truth that emerges can be devastating in its clarity. It's possible someone is experiencing exactly this dissolution right now. The you they invented is fading. The real you is becoming visible. And the distance between the two is so vast, they're having to reconstruct their entire understanding of your relationship. Some souls go through this process with resistance. They fight to maintain their version. They search for evidence that confirms their projection. They deny what they're seeing because accepting it means admitting they were fundamentally wrong about who you are. But eventually, inevitably, reality wins. The truth is too insistent, the evidence too overwhelming, and they surrender to seeing you as you actually are rather than as they needed you to be. You might be days or hours away from someone making exactly that surrender, from them finally dropping their constructed version and meeting the real you. And that meeting, it will change absolutely everything between you. This reflection invites you to consider who has been relating to a version of you that isn't accurate. Let me illuminate what the whole truth about to be revealed actually means in this sacred context. There is truth about you that lives in silence, qualities you possess that you don't broadcast, depths you contain that you don't advertise, ways you've shown up or sacrificed or held space that no one witnessed, things you've done in shadow that deserve to be seen in light. In the cosmic balance where all hidden things eventually surface, these silent truths are preparing to speak, not through your testimony, but through revelation, through circumstances that make the invisible visible, through moments that expose what you've been carrying privately. It's possible there are people in your life who are about to learn things about you they didn't know, not because you hid them maliciously, but because you're the kind of soul who does meaningful things quietly, who contributes without fanfare, who holds integrity in private spaces where no one is watching. Some truths about you are currently making their way toward public knowledge. Maybe someone will discover what you did for them without taking credit. Maybe a situation will reveal your character in ways words never could. Maybe people will learn about your struggles or your strength or your sacrifice, and it will completely shift how they see you. And when these truths emerge, when the full picture becomes visible, people will understand. They'll see why you made certain choices, why you held certain boundaries, why you were who you were when they needed you to be someone else. This reflection invites you to consider What truth about you exists in silence that deserves to be known? Let me speak to what happens in the moment of revelation itself. There is a quality to truth-telling that cannot be controlled. Once it begins, it moves with its own momentum. Once the first crack appears in the facade, the whole structure becomes vulnerable. Once one person sees clearly, their seeing helps others see. In the cascading nature of revelation, what starts as one person's changed perception can spread, can influence how others see you, can shift collective understanding, can create a tipping point where suddenly everyone recognizes what was always true but somehow remained hidden. It's possible you're approaching exactly that kind of tipping point where one person's recognition catalyzes broader recognition, where their changed view creates permission for others to see what they were seeing but not acknowledging, where truth breaks through in one place and then floods through everywhere. Some souls experience this as sudden validation after long periods of being misunderstood, after years of being seen inaccurately. Suddenly, people get it. After exhausting yourself trying to explain, suddenly explanation isn't necessary anymore. After standing alone in your truth, suddenly others are standing there with you. You might be approaching exactly that kind of collective shift where the truth about who you are stops being just your truth and becomes shared truth, where your reality stops being questioned and starts being recognized. And when that happens, beloved, everything changes. How people approach you, how they speak to you, what they assume about your motives, what they expect from your character. All of it reorganizes around a truer foundation. This reflection invites you to consider, how would your relationships change if people truly saw you? Let me illuminate the specific ways this changed perception might currently be manifesting. There are those who dismissed you, who are beginning to take you seriously, who minimized your dreams, who are starting to see your potential, who questioned your judgment, who are recognizing your wisdom, who doubted your commitment, who are witnessing your consistency in the reckoning of evidence over assumption. Your actions have been accumulating, building a case, creating a record that's becoming impossible to deny or diminish. What you've been doing in silence is becoming loud through its results. What you've been building privately is becoming visible publicly. It's possible someone is currently being confronted with this evidence. They can no longer maintain their diminished view of you because reality keeps contradicting it. They can't keep underestimating you because you keep exceeding their estimates. They can't sustain their story about you because your truth is too insistent. Some people experience this confrontation with evidence as humbling. They're being shown their own blindness, their own projection, their own failure to see what was right in front of them. And that humbling is what's changing their perception. Not your arguing, not your explaining, just the undeniable weight of accumulated truth. You might be witnessing the early signs of exactly this process. Someone treating you with new respect, new caution, new interest, new recognition, the energy between you shifting in subtle ways that signal something fundamental has changed in how they see you. This reflection invites you to consider, have you noticed anyone's energy toward you becoming different lately? Let me speak now to what you must understand about your role in this revelation. You are not responsible for making people see you clearly. That is their work, their journey, their awakening to navigate. Your responsibility is only to continue being who you actually are. To maintain your truth regardless of whether others recognize it, to hold your knowing even when it's lonely, to be the only one who knows. In the deep practice of remaining true, we release the need for external validation. We stop performing for perception. We stop trying to convince or prove or make people see. We simply are, and we trust that being authentically is enough. That truth reveals itself in its own timing. It's possible you've been doing exactly this work, standing firm in who you are while others saw you inaccurately, maintaining your integrity while being misunderstood, holding your path while being questioned or dismissed or underestimated. And that steadiness, that refusal to change yourself to match false perception, that's what's creating the foundation for true perception to emerge. Because you didn't shapeshift to match their story. Eventually, their story has to shift to match your reality. Some souls exhaust themselves trying to control how they're perceived, trying to manage others' opinions, trying to force recognition or respect or understanding. And that effort is endless and futile and degrading. But you, beloved, you may have found a different way. The way of simply being, of letting your truth speak through your consistency, of allowing time and evidence to do what argument and explanation never could. This reflection invites you to consider, what if your greatest power has been your refusal to perform for perception? Let me close by speaking to what awaits on the other side of this revelation. When someone's view of you shifts from false to true, when they move from projection to perception, when they finally see you as you actually are, something becomes possible that wasn't possible before. Real relationship, authentic connection, interaction based on truth rather than misunderstanding. In the sacred ground of being truly seen, we can finally rest, can stop defending, can stop explaining, can stop proving. We can simply be and know that what's being received is actually us rather than some distorted version. You might be approaching exactly that kind of sacred rest, where someone who has been seeing you falsely finally sees you truly, where misunderstanding gives way to recognition, where you can finally be known rather than projected upon. And whether that person stays in your life or not, whether this revelation leads to deeper connection or necessary distance, the gift is the same. You are seen, finally, truly, and being seen, really seen, changes everything. May you be ready to receive this seeing. May you trust that truth reveals itself in perfect timing. May you know that you were always worthy of accurate perception. The veil is thinning. The truth is gathering. The revelation approaches. Someone has changed their view of you. The shift is happening in the hidden chambers of their consciousness, in the quiet moments when they can no longer maintain their false narrative, in the cracks where your truth keeps breaking through. The whole truth about to be revealed, not all at once perhaps, but inevitably, gradually or suddenly, through words or through circumstances, through confession or through exposure. The truth that's been living in shadow is moving toward light, and you simply continue being, continue holding your truth, continue trusting that what's real eventually becomes recognized. Continue knowing that perception will catch up to reality, because reality is patient but relentless. Trust this. Trust that you don't need to force anyone to see you. Trust that truth reveals itself without your effort. Trust that those meant to recognize you will recognize you when the time is right. The revelation is forming. The truth is rising. The seeing is coming. Stand in your truth. Let revelation find you there. You are already whole regardless of who sees it.